G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a CX-9, not to be confused with a Mazda CX-9. I must stress that what we're looking at today is going to be a PDW that has been ported from Call of Duty 2019 into Fallout 4, complete with custom sounds and animations, by the way, as you'd expect for any Call of Duty mod. And I'm not reviewing any hideous, gigantic Mazda SUVs. If you've come here looking for a car review, well, you're in the wrong place. You might have to click off the video. So what you're looking at here is a Woolworths home brand version of the Scorpion Evo. You know, licensing fees, Call of Duty runs a business. You gotta cut costs where you can. Pushing out games every 12 months, you'd think it'd be pretty profitable, but they're gonna cut costs where they can, and then have to talk to the gun manufacturers about actually getting their property licensed. So yeah, this is actually what is referred to in real life as a Scorpion Evo. It's not the first time we've seen this thing under a fake name, but ironically, with previous installations of the Call of Duty franchise, this thing actually did have its true name. They just can't be bothered with the more modern warfares, you know? So that's kind of interesting. But it has appeared in Battlefield 4 as a CZ-3A1, and I'm not sure about its Rainbow Six Siege, but it's definitely in that. There's a tight pants, big jacket operator. I think her name's Alla, and she uses this thing, and the characteristics of her powers are very suited to this weapon. So she's got a really good crowd control thing. It's a very high rate of fire PDW with pretty minimal recoil, at least for what I can tell for this mod. So we're going to be having a lot of power very fast out of this thing with pretty rapid reloads if we don't throw in a gigantic magazine to keep this thing fed. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. We'll get into the attachments, not over the history. We can talk about that a little bit later on, I suppose, if I ever see a Scorpion again. But what we want to do is throw on the advanced receiver. Gives us 87 damage compared to our receiver standard at 51, so that's pretty good. Keep in mind that we are firing pistol bullets. It's a PDW, so we can't expect the world of stopping power out of this thing, but with its high rate of fire, I think that'll make up for pretty nicely once we get into combat, especially combined with its very low recoil. Now, we can extend this thing's range out a little bit, including throwing on a barrel with an integral suppressor, which I think is pretty neat, but the longest range barrel here appears to be the CX-38 variant, which we'll actually equip here instead of not. And 149 range is actually not too bad. We're just sort of shy of a suppressed combat rifle, if memory serves. That is, if it's the same sort of stat numbers as Fallout 76. Who knows? We'll throw in a clutch clip because we get better recoil control out of that, so why not? And we can throw in a big old drum magazine for 50 rounds here. Don't worry about this rate of fire being boosted. That's just a visual bug. There's also a 30-round magazine, but unless you want to be reloading this thing constantly, always throw the drum in. There's no reason not to, provided you've got the materials to do it. No gun nut rank, so you can do this right out the factory, out the gate. And you can throw some foregrips on. Some of these are comically large, others not so much. We'll throw on an operator foregrip for our girl Alla. And now we can talk about the muzzles. We can have a compensator, flash hider, lightweight suppressor, monolithic, muzzle brake, and tactical suppressor, which will increase our range even further. Perfect, because, you know, nominal barrel length has been increased, so the bullets might be more accurate over range. That's how physics works, right? Anyway, so you can throw some stocks on this, including this one. That looks pretty sturdy. It says marksman stock provides stability while aiming. That's helpful. Probably a lot of these are ripped directly from the Call of Duty versions of the descriptions, which have very little bearing, but hey, it's more content. It looks different if you put this scope on compared to other scopes, so yeah, I'm all for it. We'll throw on this one. That looks like a Basker reflex sight. It's been squished up a little bit. The proportions are all wrong, but the GI Mini reflex I feel like would be a good idea. And there's also a few others. No scopes on this thing. A PDW, you wouldn't expect it to be outfitted with many scopes anyway, so I think that's fine. You can throw lasers on this, 1 milliwatt and 5 milliwatts. Only for the aggressive. Yep, we'll do that. Wonder if it changes colors. I think it does. There's a subtle difference there. My colorblind ass thinks that's green. The other one appeared to be red. There's also a damage slider should this thing not be doing it for you in terms of damage. 109 damage I feel like is pretty nice. And you can have a blueprint called Serac if you feel like it, which does this. it's kind of made the color all the weapon all multicolors there, so probably we'll leave that as standard. Maybe I'll find some sort of skin setup which I'll actually make that work, but oof, that's all over the place there. That doesn't look pleasant at all. But I think this thing, jet black with a little bit of a darkish brown hand guard there, I think works pretty well, and yeah, that's pretty good. No rounds or no attachment points for changing rounds like frangible or incendiary or anything, even though that is an attachment point in the 2019 version of Call of Duty. So maybe that might be added in the future, or maybe that's just not really what the mod author wanted. Who knows? We'll have to ask. But yeah, looks good so far. Let's go to shoot things. As of this version of the CX-9, there's no actual ways to craft this thing, so the only way to obtain this in-game is through console commands. For folks playing along at home that don't know how to use console commands, I'll show you nice and slow how to do this thing. So if you're on survival mode, you're going to want to enable consoles if you haven't already done that already. But if you have, open up your console command. We're going to want to search for the weapon. It's called a CX-9, and a lot of weapons have the CX sort of letter combination in them, so that'll make it nice and easy for us. So we want to type in is help space CX and then 4, meaning items, objects that we can hold as a player. We'll narrow that down even further after that, so we go space and put wep, short for weapon, and we spit out a few things, and you can tell there's a couple of CX things going on, like the MCX, SIG MCX. I forgot about all of that, but the one we want is a CX-9, WPN CX-9, and there it is, up at the top. So next, we want to actually add that to our character, so we go player, period or full stop, add item, one word, and then we go space, make sure you put the space in, and FE05 E001, and then we can designate the amount of things we want. If you type in no numbers after it, you'll get 1, but if we type in 2, we'll get 2, 30, we'll get 30, 300,000, and so on and so forth. I think you get the idea. We only just want one, an unsuppressed variant to utilize, and there we go. We've just added it. There's a CX-9 in our inventory, and we haven't been crushed by an SUV randomly sporting in our pocket, so isn't that nice? Welcome back to the Immersive Gunners Plaza. Here is our Scorpion facsimile in first person. Here's a bash damage, just in case I forget to do it on a gunner a little bit later on, but here's what it looks like in first person. Now, one of the things I noticed about this when just screwing around with it, it's got basically 0 recoil at all. I mean, the vertical recoil is there, but it's so easy to control, and it doesn't look like outside of the recoil there's any spread whatsoever, so that bullet is hitting exactly where the little dot on the reflex scope is, or reflex sight is, all the time, which I think is going to be absolutely massive. It's going to be a very accurate weapon no matter what range we're using it, but because it's a PDW and its range is not going to be as high as you'd expect it to be a rifle, because obviously the bullets being smaller, they don't carry their damage over a longer distance because they're not as heavy. This thing, we're going to have to get a little bit close. Although we could get away with doing cheap sneak criticals cross-map, but it'll just take like 10 million bullets to actually kill a person. This is what this thing looks like in third person. Looks pretty well proportioned. I've also prepared a loud and proud version with an even shorter barrel and a reflex. No, not a recon or reflex. It's actually a holographic. It's a AOTech knockoff, which is quite large, very generous looking sight there, but for a close quarter solution, I feel like it's going to be pretty good. Let's start this by sitting in the cheap spot just so I can get a couple of easy cheap kills, and I'll just show you, even with the sneak criticals, this thing does take a very long time to actually kill our enemies from back here. So, you know, we're getting the long shot medals with the SM. Do they still give those out in Call of Duty? I don't know. The only time I've played Call of Duty is if I'm over at a friend's house doing split screens, and I usually get my ass kicked because I never play it. Maybe I should buy a Call of Duty. Maybe I'll get the original Modern Warfare 2019. It'll be cheap at this stage, wouldn't it? But we can sort of defend ourselves here, and since this thing's so easy to control and the spread is so minimal, we can just sort of laser beam our enemies, and as they come in a little bit closer, we'll have a pretty good time at cutting them down, and combined with this laser sight, keeping in our hipfire accuracy to a pretty accurate state as we slaughter this mantis. Like, even the spinny little bastard mantis I'm getting a lot of hits on in a row just because of just how accurate this thing is. Whether this thing is like this in Call of Duty and it's just merely, I suppose, copying its behavior from Call of Duty, or whether it's just a modder's preference, who knows, but Sorry, that was the mouse doing that. I didn't mean to mag dump the wall there, but we'll continue. I think we'll go loud and proud now because we've got a good idea of what this thing does when using stealth, as they Terminator 2 straight through the wall there. You all saw that. I'm going to call attention to it now because it happens every single time. Now, one thing we can keep in mind whilst using this particular weapon is that, yes, it might take a long time of full mag dumping these gunners to actually kill them, but we are firing pretty cheap and light rounds if you are playing this on survival, so I don't see them being any problems. Plus, if you're using a pipe gun, for example, with this thing, this is going to out-damage it easily, so, you know, I think for balancing sake, I think it's fine as is. Not too bad. A little bit of extra power from putting different flavored bullets in it, I think would be nice. Let's use this thing in VATS, shall we? I want to target the dudes right in front of me, game. Thank you. Okay, they're all hiding behind the trees most effectively. And if we add a critical into the mix, we can do a pretty good job at these guys. Although, it must be said that using this thing with slow motion VATS is going to make it considerably more effective, I believe. Although it's going to neutralize our AP bar pretty quickly just because of how high the rate of fire is. Now, I'm thinking we could take advantage of this thing's very little recoil and spread just by shooting these guys in the head for all of that juicy extra damage. A little bit hard to track sometimes because the gunners, they tend to dance, or any enemies sort of tend to dance and stagger when you shoot them in the head, especially if you kill them mid-stagger and their bodies just sort of fly over. A little bit of vanilla gun bash killing there. It all works out in the end, so that's worked out pretty well for us. We'll switch back over to the suppressed one now, just because I get a little bit of extra damage from Ace Operator. Seems to be doing the job a little bit more effectively, I think. Slightly better, more comfortable using this one. And I should stress, this thing is being hampered by the current game difficulty, which is robbing me of half of the damage that we are supposed to be getting. And even still, this thing is still holding its own despite being a, you know, PDW. And here come the Rust Devils again. It's odd, because usually the Raiders, they show up after you've done with immersive, with the normal Gunners Plaza. But I don't know if it's just a random encounter that spawns them in somewhere. And can I get a shot on this guy, please? That's better. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like the amount of Gunners that you kill would trigger these guys to spawn in, but it seems to always be Rust Devils here. I've seen like vanilla game Raiders show up. I really shouldn't have shot that protector on the head. Forgetting killing robots 101 here. Aim for the torso for damage. Duh. But I think you get the idea at this point. This thing is a pretty effective close quarters weapon. And is that guy hiding or is he stuck inside the wall? I think he's escaped my wrath for today. And whilst we are almost back into caution, I think we are back into caution. Man just RPG'd the wall right next to him, expecting to kill me, and he did bugger all damage. If I had true damage on right now, I don't think it would have lasted that long. I think I killed that, I blew that gunner's head off mid-death animation there. Suppose I should check out this. Ah, there you are, my friend. Well, you're getting the VATS treatment. Bit of wall hacks for you. There you go, stopping power to go through some plyboards. That's what you want out of a submachine gun. Alright, I think you get the idea, and it's... well, I think it's pretty well balanced for what it is. You might struggle late game against a platoon of enemy gunners if you haven't got the health to sort of stay in the fight, but I do think due to its rate of fire, the caliber that it fires as well, I think it's a pretty well balanced weapon, which I was told that it's their first ported release, and they've really tried hard with damages, and I think they've nailed it. And not a lot of mod developers can do that, but you know, we've got a bit of talent here that we're working with, and you can tell. So good stuff. All right, looks like Swan's done playing with his Deathclaw. He chased that thing halfway across the Commonwealth, but it's fine. We'll take this fight, and we'll accept the little bit of extra damage the Deathclaw may have gotten it before it decided to flee in terror panic. He also took on a few of the, I think, the crabs and maybe the ghouls down there. Hang on, he's aggro to something else at the moment. Well, that's not cool. Hopefully he'll finish that off pretty soon. But I suppose what he could do is utilize as much time as we can to build those criticals. as we get a nice view of the over the shoulder firing from a bush. There we go. We do have a full critical bar ready to go for bullet time VATS, so why not use it all? I'm going to just continuously press the crit button. Wow, that was nasty. Really? And why not add more criticals to the mix? Okay, I feel like that the VATS, or the VATS criticals, as it were, the bullet time ones, just do way more damage than they ever should. Maybe it's because, excuse me, yeah. See, I'm not lying to you when I say that I've got hardware problems. You just heard the mouse and keyboard just disconnect there. And they do that constantly. I've had a real shit time with Razer. I might actually move on from hardware. If you do know good external hardwares, you get like other brands that aren't Razer, I'm all ears. Give me ideas because I'm at my wit's end here. Granted, I did get my mouse back in 2020, and I've got a theory that it doesn't communicate with Windows 11 properly, which is causing all of these connection errors. But, you know, when I'm playing games like Fortnite and the mouse randomly cuts out on me when I'm in a firefight and I get killed for it, fuck, that drives me up the wall, man. Anyways, suppose we'll go into more slow motion VAFs. We'll get a couple of little cheap shots on his face again. And I guess his plan is to continuously throw rocks at me despite me not being able to get any damage from it. No, that one made it. But too little, too late, my friend. I was expecting that fight to go a little bit more sideways, but we just ended up crushing most of his health with all of those VATS criticals. So yeah, that made it easy. Maybe we won't do that against the next monster. We'll still keep the combat dodges though, because they're fun. That was a dolphin dive. That was nothing to do with it. You can go prone with this thing, but it's not a sniper, so no point. Keep your mobility to PDW. Our next target is the Wendigo. There he is down there. And for our next move from Rainbow Six Siege, I'm pretty sure you can do this. I think it's called supine or the supine. I actually don't know what kind of pronunciation it actually is, but you can do this. And I wouldn't recommend dragging your ass along the sand like that. That might cause problems going forward, but I guess we'll get a couple of cheap shots in, and as he comes closer, and we get more favorable VATS chances, thanks to this thing's range not being super high. We are suffering a little bit on that. Got another critical ready to go. It's almost a full sneak critical sort of setup there, and whoop. Okay, I did the roll a little bit too early there, but you get the idea. It looks like we are able to stagger this guy if we do shoot him, thanks to this weapon being commander. And really? Okay, we are blowing through these rounds way faster in third person. That might just be like an animation thing that's happening. That's pretty an easy fix, perhaps. Okay, that's not what I wanted to see. As I roll back into the sand ditch. And now, we've got Nerd Rage. What are you gonna do, mate? Oh, you're gonna stagger and completely get immune to all of my bullets. That's not the first time you've done that, buddy. Did that all bloody yesterday, too, when trying to shoot it with a big cat AMR, I'll tell you that much. But looks like we can keep it nice and at bay, and we're running a little bit low on 38s at this stage. But the job is done. Looks like we do have a significantly high rate of fire. Or is it supposed to be like that? So that is definitely a lot faster. And just gonna fire a full mag in third person. Reload. First person. Okay, that one was a little bit different because that slowed down halfway through. But I'm feeling that there's a little bit more rate of fire when using this thing in third person, so it might be a thing you might want to look at some of the animations for, perhaps. It's cycling the rate of fire a little bit too fast, but regardless, it's a Scorpion, so it's got a high rate of fire anyway, and unfortunately for Rainbow Six Siege operators, you can't use this thing in third person, so sucked in, I guess. So I think you get the idea. That there was a Mazda CX-9, also known as a Scorpion Evo, to anyone with the money to actually register this thing with a proper license. And you can wear this thing on your back as well. Looks really cool, especially when you turn on this side. You can see the stock just over the back of Kylie's shoulder there. I think it looks really cool. as an apparel item as well. Different mod, that's classic holstered weapons, but you know, it's always a nice bonus when everything works out properly. So as far as this mod goes, I can't recommend this thing highly enough. If you are a fan of the Scorpion in real life or have seen it in various video games, want to bring it to life in a pretty well balanced state in Fallout 4, then this is probably one of the mods that you need to download for it. And as a first mod release for Panzer, I think it's really good. There's talent there, and I look forward to seeing more stuff from Panzer in the future. So good job, bro. I think it was really good. And be sure to show your support in the comments for him. You know, gotta give him encouragement. Say, hey, this is good, make more, because all we want to do is consume mods, right? Well, that's all I want to do. But yeah, definitely worth checking out if you are interested in this thing. And hopefully there'll be an Xbox port for this someday. Hopefully someone out there will port it. I think on the Nexus page when I skimmed it, there's going to be an Xbox port, or they're allowed to. But come on, got to give our console brothers some of this because it's all worth it. So check it out if you want. Link will be in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Also, download the Kylie Follower mod. She comes with a cool base.